Okay guys, welcome back. So today is the day we're going to be putting the intake manifold back on this N52 engine. In the last video you would have seen me replacing the starter motor. In this video it's going to be putting the manifold back on this car because I need to get it back on so I can start it up and make sure everything is now perfect. So you are going to be seeing me do that. I'm not going to be longing you all off with how to put it back on. It's very, very simple to put it back on. You guys will be able to watch me put it back on. Obviously it will be quiet while you guys can watch. You'll be able to watch me moving it around, maneuvering it, and then we'll go over all the plugs that I'm plugging in so you guys understand what plug I'm going to be plugging into where. Now the pickup pipe for the CCV is already down there and sticking out, ready to go back onto the CCV. You want to put that in place already. You don't want to put that in after, and I'll tell you the reason why that is. It's because once you put the manifold on, that CCV pipe you would have to bend to be able to get it under to push on the CCV. Now if you do that, you do risk breaking it. I would advise not to do that. You want to have it in place so you can literally just, once you sit the manifold on, you'll be able to click that into the CCV even before you put the manifold on, and then just rest the manifold back down onto his pegs, onto his bolt line dowels on the actual head itself. Now, like I said, it's not straightforward because obviously we've got a lot of connectors we need to reconnect up. We've got the purge valve, we've got our heater plug for the actual CCV which powers the CCV. We've also got our PCV heater, which I'm just going to point out now, if you are in the US, do not reconnect that. I'll show you where the PCV heater is, because as many of you guys know, if you ain't had the recall done, it will set your car on fire, especially because they turn on their own. A lot of people don't tell you that. Now in the UK, it's a bit of a hit and miss. Now, I know some people have caught fire, some haven't. I'm still in two minds whether I'm gonna leave it disconnected or connect it back up. I'm not sure yet, but the possibility is I'm probably gonna leave it disconnected like I've got on my E60, purely because I don't wanna take no chances. We've obviously got our map sensor plug, our throttle body plugs, our disser plugs, and I'll show you all that as we get onto it. So let's get on to doing the manifold. So I'll just point out now before we fit the manifold, this is your PCV heater right here. You can all choose whether you want to reconnect it or not. Now the reason I don't reconnect that is purely because, just like this one, it had a lot of oil in the manifold. Now if that PCV heater decided to turn itself on, or the car felt like turning itself on, this is how fires start because of the oil inside the manifold. Going into the manifold, that will cause the oil to obviously catch a light, start burning the oil, and then obviously everything goes up in flames. Now you can obviously see I've already replaced it with a new pipe. We've got the new CCV on. Everything is ready to go. I've already connected. I've took the dissers out, checked all the disser flaps. They are perfectly fine, solid, no playing on whatsoever. So everything is good to go. So now what I'm going to end up doing is now putting the manifold back on, and then we'll realign everything and I'll show you what you need to connect. So here we go for putting the manifold back on. You will need to lift up all your wiring to get it back on here. And obviously it's not going to be so easy to do. Now you've got to remember to bring your lambda sensor plugs up through here. That's one thing you do remember, to bring them up. And you've got your fuel line, which needs to come up here as well, and out the way of the manifold, before you then decide to lock the manifold into place. Now, I know what many of you are thinking, why haven't I plugged in all the plugs going around here? But that's because there's a few other things I want to do first before I do all that. So what I need to do is I need to locate this fuel bracket for one. I also need to plug in that other CCV pipe down there. I also need to plug in the connector for the CCV heater. Now there really isn't much space behind here to be able to maneuver everything that you want to do. So this is why I try so hard to make sure I move things out the way. And you can see just where my hand's going. I'm trying to get it into the junction box behind here for the plug for the PCV heater wire, which the plug is in the way of this right here for the electrical connector, which we have to remove out the way because it's right in the way of us being able to maneuver in front of it to plug it in. And then once that's in, That's the first one. And now what we need to do is connect up our purge valve connector, which is right here, which we need to take it back underneath of our junction box, because it goes underneath, just like that. Then we need to connect our breather hose into place. Now what we need to do is lift up the manifold so we can plug in our DISO valve connector and everything else that's underneath here. Lift this up slightly, you can get underneath. Now what we want to do is try and get this whole connector bracket back on. This is our map sensor plug, which we're going to just plug in here, so we know everything is plugged back up. Then we're going to slide the harness back on to our manifold, just like that. So then we can work out what plug goes where. And then once you've done that, now you can just start aligning all your cables. So you can just start putting all your cables back on, just like that. Just like that. Then you've got all your plugs here for where you need to put them. You've got your throttle body connector, which goes back on as well. So now what we're going to do is just bolt down this fuel rail pipe, because we don't want that moving anymore. So we're going to go ahead and do is put our manifold bolts in. We'll just do that. Make sure. Don't get these mixed up with the throttle body ones. Now for this, I'm going to use a ratchet. So the next thing we need now is our throttle body to go into place, which we're going to put in. And now that's done, guys. Now you can connect up your DISO connector, just like that. Make sure everything's perfect. The only thing we've got left now is our MAF sensor. So now we'll go ahead and get our boot to go back on. You guys remember, you have to use a 6mm to tighten it from down the back here. So we're gonna have to do that so it brings the intake boot back up here. Okay, so now we're gonna fit this intake boot, which we need to fit. So we're just gonna lift that up. We need to try and get this on the throttle body aligned perfectly, which it does. Now we're going to have to take out these connectors quickly so we can get down here to tighten this up. We'll have to just get over the back here to get some space so we can tighten it up. Just make sure that's all on and touching completely, which it is. Then we can put our connectors, our wiring harness connectors back on. Now we can get our airbox. Now for the airbox, you guys should notice you have to align it with the intake duct at the front here before you, so it slots down into it. Otherwise you won't seat the airbox correctly. Now we've got that here. Now we'll just reconnect our MAF plug and we'll start bolting up the airbox. So we've got our 2 bolts here, Torx bolts. So we're just going to need our flat-headed screwdriver just to tighten this bracket up to the airbox. And it's so loose, it's about to spin. So we're going to have to hold it. Now we need to put on our last CCV pipe, which runs from the valve cover down to the CCV. If you can see here, this is the last part of the whole CCV system that I've got to connect to finish it. So we'll just do that, we'll get that connected, plug that wire in, to the back of here, and then we can start this car up, make sure everything runs correctly. So just gonna go over the back here to do that. Okay guys, so as you can see, everything is now back together. I took the time to just replace everything, put it all back together. I've started it up, everything runs perfectly. No smoke, no oil burning smell, no nothing no more. Everything is absolutely perfect. We did get a bit of smoke from obviously where the oil from the manifold leaked down onto the block near the starter motor, but that's to be expected. I did clean it up and it wasn't nothing serious. It wasn't like massive clouds of smoke. It's only a little bit and it completely stopped from where obviously it was just basically drying it out from the leftover residue. That's all done. And above all guys, the car is now done. This N52 is now fully sorted. I mean, if we do get any other issues later on, obviously we'll address them. But I think we have now covered all the main issues on this engine. I've done literally everything. Now I know this car is just ready to drive and enjoy. The only thing that I could think that could fail would be the dissers. And if that was the case, we'll just change them again. It'll be a very, very simple job. But realistically, the majority of the big jobs have now been done. The valve cover gasket, the Valvetronic motor seal, the eccentric shaft seal, the intake manifold, the CCV. We've done everything in the starter motor. So now it is just ready to enjoy and drive and enjoy, because this is one thing I've been waiting to do. So now I can literally just enjoy it when I want to drive it, knowing there's no issues, just like my A60. So thank you very much for watching guys. And I hope many of you have been enjoying this series on the N52. Like I said, there's still a lot more to come. Now we've completed this. Now we're probably going to get the E60 in here and we're going to start doing some things on that, because that thing has been neglected and it needs to come in, because we've got a lot to sort out on that one. Now I can just leave this one and actually use it when I need to. Thank you very much for watching guys. It is BMW Dr. Dean here, and this was the BMW N52 engine. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.